Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing. So, okay, let me be fair. Let me be fair about Deontay Wilder's opponent today, and let me be fair about Deontay Wilder's career as a whole. Because apparently, I need to be fair. It's ironic because the people accusing me that I need to be fair are seldom fair, if ever. So, apparently, today, because I was angry with the ref stoppage, I was being unfair because I knew Wilder was winning the fight clearly because he was fighting a low level opponent, somebody who'd gotten beat by a 6-0 prospect in 2 rounds. So, me saying that for Wilder to win in 3 rounds, 4 rounds or less would be not bad. Anything above that is pretty much a bad look because this is the baddest man on the planet. Bomb squad. So if that's you, you should be able to do something that a prospect has done, probably easier. You're far taller, far longer. You have a career with far more knockout power, right? The fact the ref stopped the fight the way he did, I said from day one, it's a bad thing because you took away Deontay Wilder's opportunity to make a statement. So now you fucking watered down the victory for Wilder, right? That's not hating on Wilder. That's talking about the ref making a bad decision. That's not benefiting the people who paid $25 for a pay-per-view or Wilder fans that are hoping that their superstar fighter gets a spectacular knockout that they can jump on top of. But I'm unfair. Okay, so let's be fair. Because, 78 today, of course, he's trying to push for a Deontay Wilder uh, Anthony Joshua fight, right? And of course, these guys love to talk how AJ and, of course, his promoter, Eddie Hearn, ducked the fight, didn't want the fight. Yet the people who made multiple offers were literally Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and Anthony Joshua, who made multiple offers, multiple offers, multiple offers. And every time Wilder and his team and the LDBC fanboys found an excuse why he didn't need to accept that offer, right? This is the spin job that we saw the whole career. When they were offered $100 million to fight Anthony Joshua from DAZN, not even negotiating with Eddie Hearn, who they had a problem with, they still found a way to not fucking do that. But these people consistently are delusional. That's just the way it is. So let's break this down and let's be fair about Deontay Wilder's resume. The same Deontay Wilder that apparently is a guaranteed Hall of Famer above Lomachenko. I mean, you can't make this shit up because this is how fucking mental a lot of these American fucking boxing fans are. So here we go. There's Deontay Wilder. Let me make it big screen. Oh, for him, you don't need to see me. You can see this, and you can hear me being fair, more than fair. So I made a video today in my live talking about how potentially a Derek Chisora would be a great opponent. Both around the same age, both started their careers around the same time. The difference is, unlike Wilder, Derek Chisora had a tough path to success. He literally had to fight everybody to fucking earn himself opportunities. Deontay Wilder, on the other hand, had an easy path, a protected path. Am I being fair or not being fair? Well, you can go look at Derek Chisora's resume, and then you can go look at Deontay Wilder's resume and see whose resume is way deeper. And it's not even fucking close. Chisora's resume is leap years stronger and tougher than Deontay Wilder's. He never became a champion because literally the hurdles he had to come through. And now at this point of their career, who's more significant and who's doing more significant things in boxing? Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora is still beating top-level opponents, while Deontay Wilder is fighting unknown fucking indescript opponents literally nobody's ever heard of. Is that me being fair or not fair? You let me know. As far as I'm concerned, I'm being fucking 100% fair across the board. So let's break this down and take a look. So this Deontay Wilder, who did start his career late, people love to bring that up. He started his career late. He became a pro because he had to fight for his daughter who was sick. Yes, and we praise Deontay Wilder for taking care of his family, for getting into the sport to raise money for his daughter that had some serious health issues. But that was fucking years ago. Are we still fucking harping on that? She's recovered. She's fucking how old now? Like 20 something years old? Like the times have changed, right? This is not 2008. Wilder ended up, of course, going on to become a bronze medal Olympian, right? Uh, let's see if we can see that stat in his amateur pedigree. Let's just jump here, see what we got. 6'6", 83-inch, my man. So here we go. So he beat this guy, Adelaide Tubalilele, who was 3-2, beat him, and then beat Muhammad Arajaulao, beat him, who was 5-4, and then faced Clement Russo, who was a legitimate amateur fighter, who ended up beating Wilder to go on to become the gold medalist. This was, of course, in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, right? So you beat two guys with mediocre resumes. One guy, what was that the score? 10-4, 10-10. That's very close. And then, of course, you lose 1-7. And not to dismiss or downplay, it's fantastic that a guy who hadn't had much opportunity to get into the ring ended up winning a bronze medal so early in his career. But similarly, Anthony Joshua was in a very similar situation. He too started boxing late after running into some criminal issues as a youth and being directed towards boxing as a way to avoid potential more criminal issues later on in his life. And he went on to win a gold medal. Yet nobody ever talks about how he started his career late and went on to win a gold medal, right? This, of course, is that blatant double standard that you find towards Wilder and AJ, how people would love to fucking fanboy Wilder. The irony is, though, the majority of these people didn't really fanboy for Wilder until he beat Bermane Stiverne. But let's go through this and see his career. So here's his career. You can see it right there in black and white and a little bit of red, fighting guys that were very low-level opponents for the first year, the first 2 years. Then in 2011, when Derek Chisora was fighting world champions, Wilder in his third year basically was fighting, not terrible fighters, but fighters that nobody was going to write home about until through 2012, where finally, you're fighting some X-name type of guys like Owen Beck, obviously 10 losses, Manswell, undefeated up-and-coming fighter, and Damon McCreary, right? This is 2012. So you've been a pro for about 3, almost 4 years, 4 years more or less. Then you fight Calvin Price, another undefeated fighter, Matthew Greer, and then ex-Olympic gold medalist Audrey Harrison, right? Went to the UK to take on this opponent. The biggest name of his career at this point. But let's be fair, Audley Harrison was a shot fighter that had literally no chin. He was getting knocked out by guys like David Price in 1 round, David Hay in 3 rounds, a cruiserweight, right? Got beat by Martin Rogan, who's, I think, a domestic Australian fighter. Got knocked out by Michael Sprott, who had 10 losses in 3 rounds. Got beat by Dominic Gwynn, who at one time looked like he was going to be a very good American fighter. Got beat by Danny Williams by split decision, right? A guy that people thought was going to be the next superstar in boxing, right, out of the UK. Very early was exposed. After losing to Price in 1 round, he fought these guys, which weren't so bad, not terrible opponents, only to fight Deontay Wilder, to get knocked out in his last fight and retire after that. It gives you a good idea about what version of Audley Harrison you're fighting, a guy who literally retired after the loss. Then he fought another tough fighter, right? A guy probably a step up from Harrison, and then Filta, another step up from Harrison. Then, of course, Malik Scott. So now you're in like your 5th year, getting into your 6th year of your professional career. Malik Scott obviously had 1 loss already. Where's his loss? Let's go back. Where was it? He got a draw against Glakov, right? And then he got knocked out by Derek Chisora in 6 rounds. Derek Chisora, 2013. Derek Chisora, at this point, his resume is leaps and bounds above Deontay Wilder. Wilder ends up fighting his future trainer the next year and stopping him in 1 round. Then he fought Jason Gavern, 16 losses, and then finally he got a fight for a vacant world title against Bermane Stiverne, who'd also been knocked out not that long prior, right? Bermane Stiverne, where is it? Knocked out by Demetrius King, a fighter who was 11-15. Knocked him out in the 4th round. 11-15. I mean, I know John got something to say about that. They need a draw against a guy who was 17-1 before finally fighting Chris Arreola twice to end up winning that vacant title that obviously Klitschko had given up when he retired. So Bermane Stiverne was a world champion, but obviously not a fucking superstar. His one big win was obviously against fucking what's-his-face, right? Who he beat twice, once very close, so they had to do it again, and then faced Wilder, ended up losing a clear decision. Wilder then, as a world champion, went on to fight a who's who of WBC ranked opponents. Not top fighters in the division, top fighters in the WBC, which means out of 4 weight division, 4 sanctioning bodies, you're fighting, guys that are probably outside the top 10 for the most part. You're not fighting killers, legitimate fighters, the best of the best. Sean refused to give Wilder his just due, sad and pathetic. What do you mean, Tax Hammer? I'm being fair. Right now, what have I said that's unfair? He beat Stiverne to become a world champion, outboxing him clearly. It was a good win. This is a guy that fought mediocre opposition for most of his career. Not on the same level as a guy like Derek Chisora. Nobody's calling Derek Chisora a future Hall of Famer. No one's calling Derek Chisora the baddest man on the planet. But at the same time, Derek Chisora had already beaten Deontay Wilder's best opponent and Malik Scott. Wilder ended up beating him afterwards and then got a world title fight. At this point, Derek Chisora had had multiple world title fights against Klitschko, the guy that legitimately used to own this title, that Wilder blatantly ducked. He was given an opportunity to fight Klitschko. He walked away from it. After he beat Bermane Stiverne, Klitschko's brother offered him a unification fight, which once again, he turned down. You can't make this up. This is facts. Legitimate. His own fucking manager said, Wilder's too young for that. We're going to wait a while. Wilder's too young for that. We're going to wait a while. So this was a guy that started boxing late. He was fucking in his late 20s, just became a world champion. But he is late in this thing. Tell me what I said so far that's not factual and accurate, right? I know anyone called Tax Hammer, that says more about his sexual preference than anything. That dude loves to tax a hammer. Don't you? It's okay to be queer, but you got the wrong flag hanging in your fucking emoji there, buddy. But let's go through forward. So then he faces Eric Molina. Not a bad opponent, I guess, for your first defense, but Molina was not considered a top 10 heavyweight at this time. Then you fought an unknown French fighter who had already had 2 losses in Johan Duhaupas. Nobody even knew who this guy was. Then you fought Arthur Szpilka. I mean, look, Arthur Szpilka. Arthur Szpilka, who got knocked out by Brandon Jennings in 2014, bounced back against a cruiserweight in Thomas Adamek with a good victory, right? And then lost to Wilder for a world title fight. Then lost to Adam Kalinacki in 4 rounds. Adam Kalinacki destroyed this guy faster than Deontay Wilder did. And we know Adam Kalinacki, where his career fucking led to. No fucking where. Then, of course, in 2019, he fought Derek Chisora, who knocked his ass out in 2 rounds, destroying him. So once again, Derek Chisora, common opponent, destroying a common opponent. Then he faced Chris Arreola. Chris Arreola, who was years fucking gone by, like literally a year, 2 years earlier is when Arreola got beat by Stavern. So you're literally fighting replacement opponents for Stavern, who'd already beaten Arreola. You beat him, then you fight Gerald Washington, an ex-football player, and then you face a big fat slob in Bermane Stavern. Why are you fighting Bermane Stavern as an opponent right now? Right? You already were a world champion back in 2015, 2016. Now you're in 2017, 2 years after being a champion, and you're rematching a guy who literally had done fucking nothing to earn a rematch, was fat like fuck for this fight. You could see him and see that that guy was just cashing a paycheck. He was such a slob in this fight. It was a waste of fucking time. You could have fought a legitimate opponent, but you didn't. Then you faced Luis Ortiz, and people were like, yeah, now we talking. I mean, how many defenses was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your 7th defense, finally, you're fucking stepping up on taking a legitimate top 10 heavyweight, right? Everyone gave Wilder credit for taking this fight because literally you're taking on a top 10 fucking heavyweight. Top 10. A legitimate fucking heavyweight. But let's be fair. If you're going to say fucking Klitschko was an old man when AJ fought him, I guess you got to say that fucking Ortiz was an old man when Wilder fought him. Or you could just be fair and not fucking use that narrative to shit on somebody's opponent and just say Ortiz was easily the best opponent on Wilder's resume. Easily. And everybody today in boxing history says that Luis Ortiz is by and far the best victory on Deontay Wilder's resume. A solid win. But in saying that, this is a guy who's never been a world champion. So while it's a great win against a top 10 opponent, this is really the first legitimate top opponent you fought outside of Bermane Stavern, who you won the title against, in your 7th title defense. And still at this point, you've only faced one world champion, Bermane Stavern. In the build-up for these 3 years, Martin, I Walk Like a God. That guy was a fellow PBC opponent, fellow PBC fighter. You could have fought him for unification. That would have been huge for the PBC. They would have had an opportunity to have a unified heavyweight champion. But for some reason, Al Heyman sold that guy to AJ, making AJ relevant. If you wouldn't have done that, AJ would never have had a world title, and Deontay Wilder potentially could have been the face of boxing in America and the world. But Al Heyman sold that guy to AJ, who knocked his ass out, became a champion, then went on to beat Klitschko in a very significant fight for the WBA title, and then went on to beat fucking Parker, another unification fight. 3 huge unification fights against 3 champions. Sure, you could say Klitschko at the time wasn't a champion, but he was given that opportunity because he was owed a second fight with Tyson Fury, which he avoided, ducked, dodged, and eventually retired from boxing. So Klitschko was still obligated to get an opportunity, so that's why he got that chance. And people use that as a way to shit on AJ because of his old-ass opponent, right? But they didn't say that about, of course, Ortiz. Let's put some context with this. At this time, they were trying to negotiate a potential fight for AJ and Wilder. AJ's team had offered him several fights, several contracts, all of which Wilder poo-pooed on because for some reason his delusion made him feel that he was the A-side, even though AJ was a 3-belt unified champion who unified it already, on multiple occasions also defended it. Wilder won a title off of Bermane Stavern, defended it against 6 mediocre opponents, and finally beat Luis Ortiz, an undefeated fighter, top 10 opponent, and was getting ton of praise for that fight. Then went on to do what? Fight fucking Tyson Fury, literally a guy who had been retired, a guy who ducked the rematch with Klitschko, a guy that had been snorting cocaine, drinking, gained fucking 150 pounds, was a fat slob, and they brought him out of retirement basically to do their first pay-per-view in 2018. Why? Because Wilder felt that potentially this could help him generate more money in negotiation for a fucking fight with Anthony Joshua. So once again, not taking the opportunity, being so focused on money and A-side status, hoping that if you beat Fury, somehow this would elevate you above AJ as the A-side in the heavyweight division. Am I lying? Feel free to tell me what I said right now that's not correct and not 100% accurate. Did AJ not go on to beat Martin, then Klitschko, then Parker to become 3-belt unified, defended his title against other guys? I don't know the timeline right off the head, Povetkin, Pulev, obviously top-level fighters, top 10 fighters. Wilder finally fought Ortiz. So you got like 5 elite fighters against 1, maybe we throw Stavern in there, 2. Meanwhile, Wilder's career had been going much longer than AJ. AJ had been fast-tracked after the 2012 Olympics. AJ started 4 years after Wilder had already been having his professional heavyweight career. So what part of what I said is not correct yet? I think what I'm saying is 100% factual. I'm trying to be fair and honest because apparently I'm unfair. But let's get to it. People praised him for his win over Ortiz. They all felt that he would beat Fury. I predicted Fury would win because I knew Fury was a better boxer, was taller and longer than Deontay Wilder, and that Wilder had never fought anyone remotely close to Fury. I didn't think Fury was going to be in the best shape, but my question was, did he need to be in the best shape to beat Wilder? I did say that Wilder, because of that, could potentially knock him out. It became a split decision draw, where then he fought Dominic Breazeale. Not a bad opponent, but I mean, not a top 10 heavyweight at that time. But you're coming off of a draw, so okay, you pick an in-house fighter and you do that with him. Then you face Luis Ortiz again. So instead of all these other potential fighters in and around your division, you're going back to the well to fight another in-house PBC fighter. Sure, it's still a great opponent. Those 2 wins and Stavern, those 3 wins are by and far the best wins on Deontay Wilder's resume. Then you end up getting your rematch finally with Tyson Fury. Fury knocks you out in 7 rounds, which is a huge fucking setback. You literally got knocked out by a guy that had no power and a guy that, was never seen as that kind of fighter. Of course, then Wilder and his fanboys had to come out with all kinds of excuses, right? Glovegate this and Glovegate that. They didn't say any of this after the draw, right? Where actually they used footage of the Glovegate issue and then used it again later on for the time that he was knocked out. Oh, egg weights in the glove. My costume was too heavy. Oh, my trainer who I'd been with fucking literally since 2008. Now it's 2020, right? 12 years I've been with this trainer, but now the guy's fucking putting poison in my water bottle. So the amount of excuses we heard, all to fucking somehow make it sound like Wilder was not beaten by Fury. So they ended up getting the rematch. And of course, as most people predicted, almost the identical result happened. Wilder showed a shitload of heart. People praised Wilder for his heart in these 2 fights. If nothing else, you could walk away knowing that Wilder was a fucking true champion, a man with a huge heart and fucking a will to win. Not the skill set, but fucking the heart. And so after all these fights, his great victory versus Luis Ortiz, his 2 big losses to Fury, people still had a similar situation. He was a hard puncher, limited skilled fighter, low volume, but a lot of heart. the guy was a fucking real warrior, right? And what he said, obviously after the first fight, that he'd rather fucking go out on his back. He lived up to that in the second loss, right? Literally getting put out on his back. So hats off to Wilder. The guy was a warrior, tons of heart, a guy that really wanted to fucking prove himself in the ring. But at this point, now you got 2 KO losses and 1 draw. You're not in a position to fucking be big moneying anybody, because literally you'd fucking lost a lot of the ground you'd gained. People could say AJ lost ground too, because obviously he lost to Andy Ruiz, who he beat in the rematch, right? But the difference is that AJ had a huge fucking support group behind him in the UK. So people were going to pay to go to Wembley to watch him in big fights. People were going to pay for his pay-per-views, right? He was fighting in Saudi Arabia well before it was normal to fight in Saudi Arabia. So he had shit on the lockdown, whereas Deontay Wilder didn't. Then he fought Robert Helenius in a fucking shit show of a fight. And then he got beat by Parker and beat by Zhang. And at this point, now you got 4 losses in your resume, 3 of which were KOs. Parker looked like he could have knocked you out, but he, of course, respected your power and wasn't aggressive as he could have been. And he's never been seen as really a hard puncher, even though neither was Fury. So there you are. At this point in your career, in 2024, the best opponents, the best wins you have on your resume is 1 win versus Bermane Stiverne, 2 wins versus fucking Luis Ortiz, and then a handful of good wins. Not fucking wins that really add up to too much. Guys like Dominic Brazil, fucking Gerald Washington, Chris Arreola. I mean, you know, they are opponents, but they were never considered elite top 10 heavyweight fighters. And then today you just fought Tyrell Anthony Herndon, a guy that was 24-5, and literally nobody had ever heard of him before. And that fight went 7 rounds, would have went potentially the distance, maybe 8 at least, if the ref hadn't stopped the fight right there. It's definitely not a good look for a guy who is trying to call out AJ and Usyk and a rematch with Fury and trying to do exactly what you think he should do, try to get big money fights. But unfortunately, when you were put in positions to try to earn big money fights before against Parker and Zhang, back-to-back opportunities that Saudi Arabia gave you to put you into a big Anthony Joshua fight, you lost both fucking fights. Right? And after Parker, they still gave you a second opportunity, and then you got knocked out in 5 rounds. And today, you do not look better than you did then. Of course, ridiculous fanboys might act as if somehow you're better and you've looked better, but anyone that watches that fight admits that what I said was 100% true. Wilder's legs are fucking shot, stiff as a board. That dude don't bend his knees anymore. Because of that, he's not as explosive. He lumbers around the fucking ring. He's off balance a lot, right? So it's not the best version of Deontay Wilder. This is not the Deontay Wilder from fucking 2018. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7 years ago, right? This was 7 years ago when Wilder was at his peak, beating Ortiz, having a controversial draw with Tyson Fury, stopping Dominic Brazil, and then beating Luis Ortiz. That was by and far the pinnacle of his career between 2018 and 2019. The only problem is, during this period of time, your ego, your team, your handlers stopped you from getting a fight that would have potentially made your career. An Anthony Joshua undisputed unification fight. Unfortunately for you, that shit just never worked out. And you can blame everyone, point fingers, and call people haters and this and that. But at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for the way your team was operating. right? The people you surrounded yourself with, Breland, who was a cheater, Malik Scott, who you just fired, right? The people you had as well. Like, this is a result of decisions you made. I'm not hating on Wilder. I'm happy that a guy makes money. But if you tell me that you want me to spend $25 to watch Wilder against some bum ass opponent and I should be excited by that, I'm going to tell you honestly, no. If Anthony Joshua came back and fought a bum ass opponent like Herden next, I would say the exact same fucking thing. I would say that's a bum ass opponent. I ain't paying any money to watch that fight because I'm not fucking interested. Doesn't mean I'm not a big fan of AJ. I still am. But I prefer to see him in with better levels of competition. Even if he was to lose to Tyson Fury, I prefer him to see him fight Tyson Fury. That's a legacy fight. If for some reason he's able to beat Fury, which, anything can happen in sports, that would be a great win for his legacy. If he loses, already at this point, it's already kind of been established that Usyk is number 1, Fury is number 2, AJ is number 3, Wilder is number 4. Right? Unfortunately, Wilder fans really hope that he gets to that 3rd position. But it doesn't matter if you get to that 3rd position. You're still fucking behind Usyk, and you're still behind fucking Fury. When people look at this division and this time in the heavyweight division 20, 40 years from now, that's what they're going to see. Usyk beat AJ twice. Usyk beat Fury twice. He beat Daniel Dubois once, maybe twice. We'll see what happens, right? Wilder beat Ortiz and lost to Fury, right? AJ beat multitudes of top fighters, but ended up losing to Usyk. Lost once to Reyes, redeemed himself in the rematch. Got knocked out by Dubois. Didn't want the rematch. But what does we say? Salute. Wilder is completely washed up at this point. Usyk didn't take the Wilder test yet. And why would Usyk even waste his time taking on Wilder? Like, see, that's the problem with Wilder fanatics. They are mental. Usyk doesn't need to waste his time with a guy that right now is not even seen as a top 10 heavyweight in boxing. Why would he fight a guy that's not top 10? He's fighting Danny Dubois next, who's literally considered number 1, 2, or 3. Then there's talk about potentially fighting Parker after that, who is 1, 2, or 3. Why would he fight Wilder? If Wilder would have beat Parker, he would have ended up earning a big fight, whether it was a fight with Usyk or a fight with AJ. But unfortunately, he shit the bed when that opportunity was in front of him. And this was a fight he should have had years ago for unification, but he allowed AJ to get that Parker win. Wilder is trash. I even rate Parker and Dubois above him. They have better resumes. They do at this point. Parker and Dubois' resumes are consistently still growing, and they're both pretty young fighters, right? And already what they've accomplished is superior to what Wilder has done. Are they as entertaining? Maybe not. Do they have the whole slogan, Bomb Squad? Maybe not. Do they have radical LDBC American fan base behind them? Maybe not. But 25, 30, 40 years from now, they're going to be seen as better fighters. If Dubois goes on to beat Usyk, then he's got to fight with Parker in a rematch. That shit is fucking fire. At this point, no one cares if they ever watch Wilder fight again. His time has come. His time has passed. For Fury and AJ, it's similar. They have the fight with each other, but outside of the fight with each other, who really wants to see them against anybody else? That's the fight that needs to happen. I don't need to see AJ against somebody else. I don't need to see Fury against somebody else. But I do need to see them against each other. That's why I said, for Wilder, the best potential opponent for him would potentially be an Andy Ruiz. You go in there and spark Andy Ruiz, that's a good common opponent to Anthony Joshua, and definitely put you in the conversation for potentially being above him on the top 4 list of boxing today. which potentially you guys might fall down and Dubois might move to number 3 or Parker. But Wilder at least, AJ at least has a win over Parker for unification. If Wilder enters the Hall of Fame, then Parker should too. Well, at this point, Parker was a one-time world champion just like Wilder. His comeback recently has been fantastic. The problem with Wilder, unlike historically great athletes, he hasn't been able to come back. Ali became a 3-time champion. Even Anthony Joshua became a 2-time world champion, right? Tried to become 3, wasn't able to pull it off. But, it is what you do. It's not what people say. Didn't Wilder lose 4 of his last 5 fights, getting KO'd 3 times? Yeah. I mean, Wilder has not been at his peak right now, right? 4 of his last 6 fights, 3 KOs, 1 decision, 2 KO wins against an old-ass shit Robert Helenius, a guy that literally got fucking sparked by Moses Atoma, by Anthony Joshua, as well afterwards. So, you beat Adam Kwanaki twice, Wilder knocks you out, you beat some guy that's record is 6-0, and then you got sparked by Anthony Joshua. You also got sparked by Gerald Washington even before you fought Wilder. You beat Ekin Tepper, that's not bad. Got fucking beat by Dillian White. Got sparked by Johan Duhaupas. Not the worst win, but nothing to write home about, that's for sure. As I said, I'm not trying to be mean or Wilder had massive power. Well, he had massive power. We don't know if he has massive power now because he just fought a bum-ass opponent that Richard Torres knocked out in 2 rounds, and Wilder wasn't able to knock him out. I know he got the knockout win, but he didn't knock the guy out. The ref fucking stopped the fight. So where was this massive power today against the fucking previously destroyed opponent that got beat by a 6-0 prospect? What was yesterday may not be today. That's all I'm saying. He was great. He was powerful. He was exciting. But at this point, he's a shell. His time has come. His time is gone. Same as AJ. And AJ was my favorite heavyweight. But as a realist, you got to be fucking realistic. Unfortunately, these Wilder fans are ridiculous. But thanks for watching, everyone. Leave your comments below. Let me know if I was fair or, of course, unfair. See you next time. Peace out. Enjoy your weekends. I will see you tomorrow live for the Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez card. I hate to say that out loud, but it is what it is. Peace out.